Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Vivian Rose. I'm so excited to be doing this episode because we have a very special guest, and we're going to be talking about seriously amazing things about her inspirational journey, her just journey on growing a business and everything. So I'm super excited to inspire you guys and just get you in the entrepreneur mindset. So you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. My name's Ariel Lupos. I am a 10-year e-commerce consultant turned designer, if you will. The end of 2024, last year, I launched a brand called Flower Girl. I designed sustainable and non-toxic period underwear for women. Happy to get into what exactly period underwear is. And my background was marketing, e-commerce. So I very naively went into product development. It's been a really fun journey. I'm happy to be here, though.
Yeah, and I just feel like your story is so inspiring. Like I did a lot of research and I seriously am a fan. Like I just
Thank
love
you.
everything and I just feel like it's so awesome to see like female founded things because I feel
Yeah.
like there's so many just like I feel like almost the whole e-commerce thing is just male dominated. So it's nice to see
Yeah.
like women just doing all these amazing things. So I'm just so excited to get into especially the first few parts about your journey and just your whole career shift from marketing into building your own brand. So, one of the first few questions that I really want to know is since you spent over a decade helping big brands grow online, what was the moment that you knew it was time to leave that behind and start your own brand and just like basically like shift careers?
Yeah, yeah. For me, like I always had this itch that I wanted to do something of my own. So, starting in corporate fashion and e commerce, I learned a ton and I'm really grateful for all of the experience that led me to where I am. But I thought that throughout the journey, incorporating myself so I could work as a consultant, that would kind of like scratch that entrepreneur itch. And in fact, it didn't. I still found that I was working for other people, I was helping them build their dreams. So, being in this space, I knew that fashion and e-commerce, it's very saturated. So when I did my own thing, I wanted to come in and I really wanted to solve a problem. And I really wanted to do something that I felt could make an impact. So I started thinking about problems that I had in my own life. And, as a woman, the options that we were given for our cycles never really sat right with me. I hated using tampons, energetically clogging up your flow. Like, that did not feel right for me. And then I started using pads. My skin was getting really irritated. By the end of the day, I was itchy. I was so uncomfortable. So then I started using period underwear. And while I found it to be the best menstrual option, in my opinion, I still wasn't super happy with the product. I still found it to be really bulky and big and uncomfortable. I would put it on and I would like go to a workout class or put my jeans on and I was like, there's 2 inches added to my ass, like this is just like crazy. So I was like, I want to do something taking advantage also of living in Los Angeles. So I produced the product here in LA. I started to talk to friends about having this idea of wanting to develop a product. I'm fortunate, everything in life I feel like is so your connections are so valuable because when you just put an idea out there and you start telling people, talking to people, I find more often than not, good people will connect you to other people. And I was just connected to people. I drove a ton around downtown LA, just like meeting manufacturers, production facilities. And I was like, you know what? Let me start sampling and just creating this product. And then after 2 years of research and development and talking to people and creating samples, a lot of failed samples, a lot of failed iterations of the product, it finally brought me to a product I was really proud to launch with. That's became Flower Girl.
And I love the way that you're so passionate about it as well. Like I feel like you truly stand behind your product and
Yeah,
that's so nice to see. And
yeah,
I feel like this is going to inspire so many young girls who maybe want to start their own business but they're afraid to. So just
yeah,
seeing you just have the courage to step outside of that and do something completely different and like you said you have that entrepreneur itch. I feel like a lot of
yeah,
girls today who are younger, they have the entrepreneur itch but they don't know how to tap into it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I completely love that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to get more into like what you think was kind of scary when you first started. So what do you think was the scariest part for you when you first went from like your marketing job to actually being an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Oh, good question because there was a lot of scary parts. I think that, because my background was in consulting and I typically worked as like a contractor, that's what gave me the courage and the background to go for this, because my lifestyle, I was already very comfortable with the ebbs and flows of work, right? Like there were months that I had great clientele. I had a ton of projects. I was making a ton of money. But then there were months that it was a little more quiet. And
Mhm.
I had to learn how to really adjust my lifestyle to live with the ebbs and flows of income, right? So already having that comfort, I think, was a huge help. So my advice to women who are thinking about starting something of their own, because it is really hard if you just go from like having that corporate full-time salary to then having nothing, that's scary. And I rely a lot on my savings. I'm big on, ever since I was young, I fortunately, my parents raised me to invest, right? So I took the little money that I had when I was 13 years old and I invested it in the stock market. And I always had that money kind of like there growing, right? So I would say to anybody who's thinking about it, first, like make sure your financials are in order. Make sure you have at least a 6 month, if you're going from corporate to like, want to go full time with your own thing, make sure you have 6 months to live off of so that you have a runway. And then if possible, I tell a lot of friends and women I talk to, like, if you can take your career and you can consult, or if you can at least get yourself like a part-time gig or something, that helps, because as somebody, I bootstrapped the business, so I still have like part-time clients that I lean on because I'm not living full-time off of Flower Girl yet. So I still need an income to keep the lights on, to keep rent going. But I think having that understanding of how you can live, with part time as well is really important, because yeah, I think it's hard in this day and age. Life is so expensive to just fully. But yeah. In addition, other scary. I think I tell people that I went into product development very naively, and I kind of think that's the best way to go into something. Like if you know too much, like it can be really intimidating. And
Mhm.
there was just little things that I had to learn along the way that I was like, oof, like I didn't want to take 2 years to launch this product, but it ended up taking 2 years. And I think a lot of times people get discouraged if they know like the actual timeline of something. But if you feel passionate about something, if it keeps you up at night, just working towards it a little bit every day, despite, feeling scared or intimidated, like I think that's ultimately what we're here to do.
Yeah, and speaking of when you said when you first started, different things like you would start investing and saving money so that you could have something to live off of. What is
Yeah.
one thing that you would tell your younger self, like when you were starting? What's that one thing you wish you knew?
Oh my gosh, really great question. If I could tell my younger self, I would say, take the risks and like put yourself out there and don't be afraid of like what other people are going to think. I think I'm a Libra, so naturally I'm like a people pleaser and I care about what other people think. Like I do. And I think a lot of times, especially with social nowadays, people are like, just put yourself out there. Who cares? And that's like a hard thing for people to overcome. But I wish that I had started just putting myself and my thoughts and the brand and maybe being more behind the scenes with my life earlier, and not caring so much what other people think.
Yeah, I feel like that's so important. Like in
Yeah.
pretty much like all of life, I feel like that's so important no matter what field you're in or what you do
Yeah.
for like a living. Because I almost feel like today with social media, everybody is just posting highlight reels and then
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know, hey, this is actually not like my everyday life because they don't say it. And so I do feel like that really is one of the number one things that like if anybody takes anything from this podcast episode, take that. Like
Yeah.
that is going to get you really far. So I really appreciate you for sharing that because that is a big thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I kind of want to get into building Flower Girl. So what do you think was like the whole vibe and aesthetic when you first started, and what is the origin of the name?
Yeah, yeah. So initially, my thought was like, I want to create underwear that women feel really empowered wearing, even on their cycles. Because again, when I was buying from these other brands, I just felt like I was still wearing a diaper, or I was still
Mhm.
wearing something that made me feel like I was like dealing with like a medical issue versus like
Mhm.
just like the flow of my cycle, which is something that is honestly sacred and beautiful. It creates life. I wanted to like kind of reshift the narrative around it. So initially launching, my thought was, I want to create a product that is sexy and cute and that women feel good to wear even on their cycles. That message honestly has shifted a bit. I have learned that what's really working for Flower Girl is like women love this sustainability message. I use all natural fibers to create the product, and then a completely non-toxic gusset, which is like the crotch area. So the 3 layers that allow the flow to bleed into the underwear. And I'm really proud of that message, and that's what's working. So it's been a fun evolution and to see the messaging shift. And then the naming, I had such a hard time. I sat on it for months. I'm like, what do I call this? And Flower Girl kind of just came to me. I love flowers. My ultimate dream in life has always been to like open a flower shop, like a little lifestyle bodega. So
Mhm.
I kind of like having that in mind, and then also thinking about all the fun ways the marketer in me, I think, was like, oh, I could play with the word flower and to be in bloom, and flower tying in with like
Mhm.
our vagina. I was like, I kind of started ideating all of these marketing messages. So I was like, I'm going to call it Flower Girl. And then also the girl just tying into like honoring like our inner child as women. So I do a lot of spiritual like woo woo work around that too. So yeah, that name kind of just came to me.
Yeah, and I also love it because I feel like the way that all flowers are so beautiful because they all have their different unique qualities that also
Yes,
plays into it. Like the way everyone is so beautiful and everybody has unique qualities that make them the best version of themselves. So I just
100%.
love the whole aesthetic and the vibe. It's just seriously screaming empowerment. And I feel like that seriously is like speaking for the brand without even seeing the product for a lot of people. Like
I
if
love
I
that.
hear that, yeah, if I hear that, I'm like, okay, I know I want this because it's
Yeah.
like this is what I'm standing for. This is what I'm going to feel like when I wear these. So I'm obsessed with that. That's so good.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I want to talk about how period underwear, that whole, I almost feel like the whole market is pretty saturated. Like if you go to different like stores like Target and stuff, you see a whole lot of them. So what do you think makes Flower Girl so different from all the other ones?
Yes, yeah, great question because it is a saturated market. And I felt like there was a space to come in again and kind of make it more comfortable using materials that make the product more breathable. You know, I I think a lot of the other brands, I've learned throughout this journey that synthetic materials are not great for women, our bodies, especially wearing next to the most absorbent parts of our body. So our vaginal wall is 10 times more absorbent than our skin, right? So anything we're wearing down there going directly into the bloodstream. So for me, landing on fibers that are natural and body safe was extremely important. I do want to share, my product right now is best for light to moderate flows. So, there's products out there. I find this with tampons, I find this with period underwear that they're really proud and loud to promote that they're great. They'll last you 12 hours. They're great for super absorbency, all these things, which in fact are really not great for our bodies. So, as a lot of women know with tampons, there's toxic shock syndrome that women can suffer from if a tampon is too absorbent and if it's worn for too long. And I think for so long, we've had this idea that you can wear this one product that's great to last for 8 to 12 hours. And that's just not the case. It's not good for our bodies. Our bodies are meant to, we need products that we can properly cycle in. So that's just research that I wanted to share I find really important.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of times because of these materials are being used, we as a society have normalized PMS. We've normalized debilitating periods. We've normalized heavy bleeding, cramping, all of these things that are not normal. That is our body like screaming for our attention. And in fact, I've learned also that our period should be looked at as a report card from our body. So how your symptoms arise from your period, that is our body giving us a report card. And I just want to share that myself and a lot of women I've talked to who have come into this free bleeding movement no longer have debilitating cramps. Their periods start to lighten up. Our durations are shorter. They're not 7 days of like a full bleed. It's anywhere from 3 to 5 days of like a manageable with like a heavy day, of course, but like
Mhm.
extremely manageable. And I truly attribute that to changing or thinking about the products that we're using and just managing our flow in a better way. So that was the ultimate goal with the underwear. And something, again, that I want to educate women on, because, I hate that our society has normalized like periods being so debilitating.
Mhm. And first of all, I love how you have all the research ready and you know exactly what's going to back everything up.
Yeah.
And I just love the whole persona of it, like the way that you say, okay, so it fits good, perfect. Because I know a lot of times that will kind of like throw you off, and it's like, okay, I don't like the way it fits, so therefore I'm not going to use it anymore. But the fact that there was a lot of intention put into that as well is really great because like you said with tampons, I know when I first started my period, I was afraid of tampons
Yeah.
and I didn't want to use it. And so I feel like period underwear is such a great way to start. And
Yeah.
it's just like it's less scary than like tampons or pads
Yes.
because like
Yeah.
you see all these different like you see all these women in your life using this and it's like oh my god. But the period
Yeah.
underwear is like a great way to start.
Yes, thank you for saying that, because I agree 100%. I remember my first tampon story, or getting my period and putting my first tampon in, and just no, like I'm like, this is definitely not in right. First of all, but like, oh, I hate that product.
Me too. And it's just like I hear so many horror stories about them and it
Yeah,
really made me
yeah,
not want to use them.
scary. Yeah.
And then also, I want to know were there any surprising challenges that came with creating this product based on like the intentionality of it, like the way that it fits, the way that it looks, the way that it feels, but then
Yeah.
also the look of it?
Yes. Okay. For the challenges with this was my first foray into product development.
Mhm.
So I had to learn everything about manufacturing, everything that goes into creating a garment, which in itself is such a complex and such a compartmentalized process. I have so much respect for our clothing now, just knowing all of the steps that go into making something so basic as a t-shirt. And underwear, you take that, it gets a little more complex. And then I'm like, oh my God, I decided to make period underwear. Like, this is an extremely technical product. Like, I need to launch with something that works, right? Like, I can't launch with something and like have it failing on women. Like, this is something that's like extremely important. So that was a huge challenge, because there were definitely times where I was like, what the heck did I get myself into? Um, and as a first time, yeah, in product developer. So luckily I found a manufacturer in Los Angeles who was willing to work with me, who taught me the whole process of creating something. You start with a tech pack that has to fit right. I went through 5 samples of the body of the underwear because the fit and the cut was so important to me. Again, I wanted it to look cute, I wanted it to be comfortable. I went through probably 100 iterations of the material used in the gusset to create the pad, right? So as I kept learning about textiles, I kept wanting to use better and better fabric. So I just kept ordering different like yardage samples. And again, I think it took 2 years, because every time I would get my period, I was like, I have to test this through the entire cycle. Like it got to the point where I was literally cutting up cloth and layering it, because as making samples is so expensive. So I was like, I just need to layer this in my underwear and see how it works. So there were a lot of challenges with sampling and just learning about textiles, which is so cool. And I think that my hypothesis with like clothing and how consumers shop and wear clothing is that, much like how food had its whole like organic marketing
Mhm.
trend, and like we as consumers started learning about what we're eating and how that's so important, my hypothesis is that we're going to start learning about materials and clothing too, and how fibers that we wear affect our body and our function. Because so much of like fast fashion, for example, is made with synthetic fibers, and ultimately, for example, like polyester is made of petroleum gas, right? So it's like when you think about wearing polyester, that you kind of hear about it probably with like athletic wear, right? And how
Mhm.
like Lululemon had that whole thing. And it's like when we wear these tight clothings against our bodies when we're like sweating, and like imagine all that, like those chemicals and microplastics getting in your body. So I think that's where we're headed as consumers, or at least that's my hope, is like understanding all of that. But yeah, there were a lot of challenges around just what materials to use, and then yeah, making sure the fit and function was great for launch.
Yeah, and I love the way that you actually tested everything to make sure that it was up to your standard,
Oh
and
yeah.
you didn't just put your name on it. No, you actually tested it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Which was fascinating to me too. And thank you for saying that, because I think a lot of brands, like, I'll be honest with you, when I first started, the first thing I did, I went to Alibaba, the website where a lot of brands order products from China. And I got these samples in and I was like, oh my God, this product looks just like what everyone else is selling. And I was like, I don't want to do it this way. I don't want to just order a bunch of like product and samples from overseas. I want to make it myself. So yeah, and I think a lot of brands nowadays do that.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like everything is just copy and paste now. Everything's the
Yeah,
same, and they just
yeah,
change the packaging basically.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
So I want to get into the way that Flower Girl builds confidence. It like really brings out the self-care in us. So how do you think that building Flower Girl shaped your own confidence in a way, and your own self-care practices, and just like the things that you do to show yourself that, like, I'm going to spend time, and like just show yourself love?
yeah. I love that, because starting a business, I think a lot of people will tell you this, has been like the most spiritual journey I've ever been on, and truly self-evolving journey. And it's taught me so much about what my values are, because ultimately, I feel like with any founder, like at least any founder led brand, like you'll really see the values of that company kind of come through, or at least that person's values come through. For me, self-care has been such an important pillar of my life, my whole life. I mean, taking care of our bodies, using products and understanding what the ingredients are in them, non-toxic products, like that's so important to me. So making sure that that comes through in the brand has been very important. And I mean, when I first launched this brand, I didn't realize, I think, how little my self esteem was. And through this journey, because when you start, like, I've always been like, I'll cold email anyone, I'll DM anybody, and I'll go up to anyone with my product and be like, I would love for you to try this. But it's funny, because thinking about who I was when I first launched and going up to certain influencers, hands shaking, like, I've had a lot of an evolution, even like through launching this, that now I'm like, here's my, like I feel
Mhm.
better in myself and more confident in my mission. And I think that you can really only get there through doing it, like it's not as easy as just like flipping a switch on and being like, today I'm gonna go and like post whatever I come up with this morning on social media. But now I'm in a place where I'm like, I want to post something today, I'm just gonna film it and post it, because like I just have this new level of confidence, I guess. So having that confidence boost through this journey I'm super grateful for it.
Yeah, and I love the way that you said that you would just cold email people and then be like,
Yeah,
"Hey," and then also it completely changed your self-esteem, because I honestly feel like once you have to go through the whole like shebang of standing behind your product, pushing it out, keeping the buzz, you have to have some sort of self-esteem, because you have to
yeah,
believe in it the same way you believe in yourself. So I feel like that's so important for everyone to know, that like I have to have self-esteem with this product too.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I think, I've had friends who have launched businesses, and like, it feels a little more like they're not willing to like bet the house on the product. And I always say, like, you better stand behind what you're doing, because launching a business isn't easy. And I feel like a lot of people talk about things, but then the actual action of doing it is where they fall off. And you have to be extremely dedicated to what you're building.
Yeah, I agree. And I want to get into kind of like how you said earlier that periods have such a negative reputation like in today's society. So, how would you go about like changing everybody's mindsets on periods, and people actually get excited when it's time for your period?
Yeah, that's been really hard. I'm not going to lie, because I feel like I stepped into an extremely stigmatized category, right? Like you said. And that's why the old, like, my strategy is ever evolving. I'm always testing like what is resonating with the customer when I'm talking about the product, kind of how I shared the sustainability message is working recently, because I'm also sharing research behind it that when we wear natural fibers, our body responds better to our period than when we're, using a synthetic product that has a bunch of chemicals in it. And that's just backed by recent studies that have come out, So as much as I can share information like that and get it in front of women, I'm noticing they're definitely receptive to it. But there have definitely been challenges too around getting women to change the products that they've used for many years of their life, So I'm also recently testing, sharing. I feel like the last thing our society, our women want to hear is like another product to add to their lineup, because we're always being marketed. You need this supplement, you need this product. And my goal has been to really share with women around what I've learned around cycle syncing, for example, and just really understanding our bodies and our phases as cyclical beings, women. We operate on typically like a 28-day cycle versus men who operate on a 24-hour hormone cycle, which is what our society was built around, which is why it's really hard for a lot of women to show up as our best selves every single day, because we're cyclical. We have 4 different phases that we go through each month, and we are different people during each of those 4 weeks, So just sharing that with women and helping them understand how to best optimize their life is something else I've really been trying to tie in. And then, of course, selling the product is the best healthiest option, in my opinion, to manage your cycle, just to make life even easier. Has That's kind of all that I'm toying with right now.
And I love that you mentioned cycle syncing. I feel like that is very underrated in so many
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah.
It's it's so helpful because I've recently started cycle syncing because I did a lot of research on it, and I'm still getting into it. And I don't know everything about it obviously yet, but
Yeah.
I've been wanting to get more into it. And just the fact that you mentioned that, it's like, okay, I'm doing this right. I really want to
Yes.
just feel better, like, every period, try to make each period better than the last. And
Yeah.
I love that you mentioned that, because I feel like a lot of people overlook that, like the
Yeah.
foods that you eat, the exercises that you do, it
Yep.
completely will change your whole life.
Totally, totally. And it's like I think it's a lot easier. Again, I feel like our society, there are apps that have been created and all these things that society wants you to like do to like manage cycle syncing, but it can be as easy. Here's what I do. I use my calendar in my phone. We all pretty much all have iPhones or smartphones now, right? All I do is I note the first day of my period, and from there I have a really great understanding. I can just look at that and I know the weeks, So depending on what day it is, it's like I know what week I'm in, and then that a lot of things make sense to me. It's like if I'm more tired this week, I'm probably not going to like bump my schedule to the max that week. Like I'm going to know my body needs rest. Or same, if I wake up feeling more tired, it's like maybe I don't go to that workout class because my body wants rest during this time. So it can be so easy that I want to, share that with women as well. Like it doesn't have to be this like open an app every morning tracking this and that. And our bodies are so different that I think apps oftentimes give you like a really general, here's what you should do. And it's like, our bodies also fluctuate so much.
Yeah, and then I also feel like a lot of times with the apps, they're just trying to sell you something that
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
isn't gonna help
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So I'm like, just use the calendar in our phones.
Yeah, and I think that's great, because it almost makes it a little bit more difficult. Like you have to do all of these things, tick off all these boxes, when we could just do something that we're already doing every day, looking at our calendar. So
Exactly.
I love
Exactly.
that. I want to talk about your entrepreneur journey, get back into that, because I feel like that's one of my favorite things about everything. I just feel like the way that you did the whole career shift is crazy, and I just love it. So, I want to get into how a lot of girls feel like that their dreams may be too far away or too big because of their environment, and maybe downplay their dreams and stuff. So, what do you think is your best tip for actually starting the business and starting the process?
Yeah. Yeah. Here's something else that I think is like very underrated, like when people like want to start a business, just start by doing research. That's what I did. I probably spent like 3 or 4 months before I like really started developing the product, just creating like Excel sheets of like competitors in the space. And now, I mean, AI was a thing when I started, but it wasn't near as advanced. I use ChatGPT every day. If like the audience is not utilizing ChatGPT, I would say that is the first thing get yourself familiar with, because I think we're living in such a beautiful time where it's easier than ever to like get to know your space. So I would start by just having a conversation with ChatGPT, doing research, asking like, what help me put together a plan for what it would take to like get this business started. Tell me who else is in the space, what they're doing. You can go so deep on it nowadays that if you're not utilizing it every day, don't fall behind. Like these tools are only going to get more advanced. And I'm telling you, the things that they can put out is so valuable. Do you use it ever?
Yes,
Okay.
all the time.
Like, yeah, I tell a lot of like my friends who are still kind of like naive about it, it seems. And I'm like, you're going to fall behind if you're like acting like you're afraid of it, or if you're scared that it's going to like take all these jobs. I think we're in a phase where it's like, when the internet first started coming around and everyone was like, oh my God, the internet's going to take all of our jobs. And like, we're very scared about it. But it's like, look at how many jobs it actually created and how many small businesses it allowed people to create, because the possibilities are endless now. You have Shopify, like all of these tools. So I think we're in a similar stage with AI where it's easier than ever to do research. And yeah, my advice would be like, just do a little bit to work towards your goal every day. And also I get it, because I was in this place where it's like you still have a full-time job, and like I think if you're really serious about something too, you kind of need to analyze and like look at your life and like, what are you spending time doing? Like I had to start saying no to a lot of things, right? Like social outings. There's certain things where, and I'm not saying you have to like totally like shift your life, but like just priorities. Like think about like, maybe on a Sunday, are you going to brunch, or are you, spending your day like sitting at a coffee shop doing research towards building your dream? Like those are certain sacrifices that I think a lot of times you have to take if you want to be a business owner, because it's definitely it's not an easy path, and it's not like a typical 9 to 5. Like it's not for everybody. So
Yeah, and speaking of the way that you said sometimes you have to like sacrifice certain things, how do you balance it? Like how do you balance, like, first of all, your work life balance, and also the balance with your business, like creating profitable products but also making sure that it aligns with like your values and what you stand by?
yeah. For me, kind of like to tie this back into cycle syncing, if I can make it make sense, is just I like listen to my body. Like I feel like I've gotten into a place where I can sit with myself, and like there are days that I'm able to have a ton of output and get a ton of work done, but there are days where I'm like, I'm so tired, and maybe I don't want to like work a ton on this, but I'm all like, you always have to do like a little something, right? But again, it's like I give my body that rest and respect. Like I will honor if I need more rest on certain days versus some days where I'm like, I'm able to do a lot more. So I think what I've learned is like on the days where I'm feeling great, do as much as you can, because I recognize there are going to be days where we're human. We can't have as much output, and just like respecting those boundaries with myself and sitting with my body and respecting what I need to be my best self. And I think at the end of the day, if we're doing that as humans and as women especially, then we're doing the best that we can do.
Yeah, like I honestly feel like just listening to your body like every day, because
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like hustle culture is so pushed in front of you. Like every
Yeah.
single day we have to do this, that, and then you just feel so tired and
Yeah.
exhausted at the end of the day. I
And
hate
how
that.
productive are you actually being when if you're pushing through and you're burnt out? It's like at the end of the day, that output is probably not your best work and your best foot forward. So it's like just honor your body. And I feel like it sounds like so simple, but it's so underrated as something we're actually doing as a society. And it's like, just allow yourself that time to rest and reset. And I promise the outputs are going to be better. And also all of it's still going to be there.
Yeah, and I love that. Like even I honestly feel like that's really good for students too. Like sometimes
Oh
I
yeah.
feel like you push yourself too hard and now you're not even doing the best that you thought that you could on this test. So I
Right.
feel like that is great for everything. That should be like on a shirt or something.
Yeah. Just rest.
So I want to talk about the factor of failing in your business. So what do you think was a failure or like a setback that was actually a blessing in disguise for you? And that was actually like, like I'm glad this happened like on the other side.
Yeah. I think like to answer that question, because I failed so many times at so many things, so many, like I shared, iterations of the pad of the product working, right?
Mhm.
Um, Something that I got comfortable with, the lesson of failure in general. And I think again, our society teaches us like to just win and to just like you have to like pass the test. And like we as a society, I don't think we do a really good job of like highlighting failure. And through this journey, I've actually realized like failure is like the most important thing you need to be successful, because you have to fail a bunch of times to to be successful, right? So
Mhm.
learning to accept failure, I think, was like actually the biggest blessing in disguise. Because, I think again, I would like beat myself up, or I'd get so frustrated and so upset, like, oh my God, this isn't working. Like, what am I doing? Like, why did I do this? But actually at the end of the day, being like, no, like I accept that failure and like fail fast, I would say. Like learn to like iterate and like not get down on yourself and to not bail, just because you failed at something. Like fail fast, iterate, and produce the next iteration of the product, because yeah, I think just accepting failures was an important lesson.
Yeah, and then I also feel like it's so easy to compare yourself to other businesses where you didn't see all the parts that they failed. You only saw the
Yes.
part that they decided, like, okay, this is what I'm going to take from this. And then they finally won. They don't show all like the failures. I feel like it's so important to make sure people see that.
Exactly. Yeah, I did want like try to build in public, as a strategy, and it is something I've tried to share on Instagram a bit of like, here's the failures, here's what didn't work, because yeah, to your point, like I don't think society really highlights that.
Yeah, and then I have one last question. I'm sad because this has been so much fun,
Yeah.
but and I know that you'll love this question. So, I know you said you're into like the spiritual like vibes, like the side of that. So do you have a daily or a weekly ritual that just keeps you grounded?
Oh my God, I love this question. So, yes, something that I've started sharing with women is I like to try to have, I call it a strategy session with myself every day as much as possible. I as long as possible, even if it's like I come home and I like sit on that chair for like 5 minutes, just like laying down, putting all electronics away, and it's where I just sit and I like think and I like meditate, if you will. And I actually like to share that I tie it in with meditation, because I think meditation is something our society puts so much pressure on. It's like you have to like sit and be quiet and like whatever, like put on something guided. But it's like, no, I think it can be as simple as just getting quiet. And ultimately, a huge value that I want to share with Flower Girl is that I believe as women, we are the most intuitive beings on this planet. And I think our society is so noisy and it is so distracting, and it gets us out of our power and out of our intuitive being. So I love to share, just if you can sit at any point with yourself and just get quiet, there are so many downloads that come to you, that can come to you. And yes, I think it can maybe take time if you're not totally used to doing it, but like just get quiet with yourself and see what comes to mind, because I think we hold so many answers within us. If we're struggling with something, if we were looking for an answer to a question that we've been like playing within our minds, like just sitting and getting quiet with ourselves is like my ultimate favorite self-care, personal strategy, business hack, all of the things. And I want women to get back into our power. And I think one of the biggest way we can do that, we don't need something to do that. We just need to like sit and be quiet within ourselves.
Yeah, and I love the way that you said that doesn't have to be like this guided meditation because it's
Yeah.
so much pressure. Like, okay, I'm going to
Yeah.
meditate for 10 minutes, I have to
Yeah.
listen to this, close my eyes. Like, I honestly feel like it makes you not want to do that because it's like
Right.
all of these thoughts are racing through your brain and they want you to not think about anything. It's
Exactly.
just,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really hard. So I love the way that you said that. It just seems so much easier. So I'm definitely
Yeah.
going to try that.
Love it. Yes, do it. Like it's like another we don't need another app for this and that. It's like we just need to like learn how to be with ourselves.
Yeah, and I seriously enjoyed this so much. This was so much fun.
Me
And everyone listening, I will leave all of the links to her like social media accounts, her website, everything in the show notes. You don't have to go look for it. It'll be right there. And just make sure to go check everything out because she's amazing and she's so cool to talk to. So, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun.
So, like I said, thank you guys so much for listening and I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.